Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. This is the Into the Weekend with BetDSI show that we do every week. Of course, in this show, we talk to Brent, the headlines manager at DSI Sportsbook, and he gives us a little glimpse into some of the notable action that he's taken so far on the football card each week. Right now, it's Thursday afternoon. Brent, thanks for being back with us.
Good to be with you, Peter.
All right, the first thing I want to ask you about is, we touched on how you guys set your opening lines last week a little bit, and there was a very interesting game, a very, very minor game, South Alabama, Idaho, but it was very interesting because, Idaho opened as a 7-point home underdog, and a lot of squares, myself and my boss included, looked at that line and we thought, man, this line is just off. Idaho is obviously the right side here. Then in our call, though, you told me that you got sharp action on that one, and the line actually closed at 3, which is a huge move, right? Opens at 7, closes on another key number at 3. But then you look at the final score, South Alabama blew them out. So maybe it's the guys who opened that number who really knew what the hell they were talking about. When you see a line move like that and a result like that, what's your thought on the action in general?
Well, my first thought is that I think if you go through the sharp action, we were like 6 wins and 3 losses. NFL is 4-1, and then now you want to bust my balls about this one game, Peter?
No, I'm just.
I mean, the fact that you were on it kind of tells it all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all should have known right then and there.
I'm just thinking maybe these guys who set these lines are the fucking super geniuses, and that when a line jumps off that opening line, that who's sharper, the guys who set the lines or the sharps who came in? I mean, you told us the sharps came in on +6 and +7 and everything, and someone must have bet it.
Right.
Someone must have bet it after our call, because our call was over 3 and it closed at 3.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when we had the call, it was sitting, South Alabama was 4, game closed at 3, and I mean, even like on Saturday, the Sharps were taking the +4, they were taking +3.5. I had money on Idaho +2.5 in the first half, all that kind of stuff. Whether it's interesting or not, I actually did get action on the under in that game as well. We took action on the first half under 30 and the game under 59. I think it closed like 58, something like that. So I mean, they got the total right, but they're way off on the side. And I mean, it's in the eggs and omelet kind of thing. You gotta break some eggs to make an omelet. In this case, the guys who provided with the numbers were bang on in terms of who the favorite should have been and by how much. And again, the function of the line is less who's going to win the game, and more so how we're going to split action on this game. And obviously, if we had probably opened around 3.5, we might have been balanced on this game, but we were way off opening up at 7. The Sharps, obviously thought Idaho was the sharp side, and then turns out that the guy who set, the couple of groups who give us opening information, they were bang on with South Alabama in that one. And again, you just, you're not going to be right all the time in all these games, of course.
So who do you consider to be sharper then? The guys who feed you the recommended opening lines, or the sharps who come in and bet those lines?
I would say the guys who bet the lines are the sharper for sure.
All right, okay.
And again, I mean, part of when the opening number comes out, part of what they're thinking as well is not only who's going to win or what's a good number, what's going to balance action for the book. That's their first intention, not to say, hey, this is who's going to win and by how much. Right. Whereas when a bettor comes in, they're saying, hey, this is the side to be on.
All right. Well, interesting information as always, Brent. Now let's get to a bunch of games, marquee games, with some line movement here. One of them has very interesting line movement, so we'll see what you can tell us about it. The first thing I'd like to discuss is Alabama, Mississippi, right? Alabama, maybe not quite the Superman team that the team of Supermen that they have been in years past. They're still ranked number 3 in the nation right now. Ole Miss, though, ranked number 11. Alabama off a bye, and they're a road favorite here of less than a touchdown. I mean, I can remember in recent years when Alabama would be a favorite of like 21 or 24 in a spot like this, get pounded by the public. Has the public been betting Alabama here?
This is a case where the public more has been on Alabama. The count favors them probably about 3-1. My money's almost dead even, though I've actually got sharp action on both sides of this game, depending on your number. I've seen them take +6.5, and I've seen them lay 5.5. And based on that, I mean, if someone's laying me 5.5 who's sharp, someone's taking +6.5 who's sharp, we're sitting at 6 right now, and that's exactly where we are. So Alabama's favored by 6, total's 53. Public is definitely on Alabama. Sharps are split on this one, Peter.
All right, interesting there. And then Baylor, Texas now. I think I saw Baylor open at 13, right? My first thought is that the public is definitely going to be all over that. Maybe the Sharps would be over that opening number as well. It did get up to 16.5 or 17, and I kind of thought maybe it would hang there or stay there. But now I'm seeing it all the way back down to 14.5 market wide. So I'm assuming that movement back down had to have been sharp action on Texas, right?
The action on Texas actually isn't what I would call, particularly sharp money. The Texas, so we'll call it oil money, as you like to say. Definitely some big bets. I did have sharper action on Baylor early, and maybe the last real sharp bet you would say that we took on Baylor was around 14. But the sharps are definitely on Baylor. If I had to choose pick a side and tip one, it would be Baylor, but not at the 14.5. It was the 14 and below. The big money that came back on Texas was more like 16 and then 15, even 16.5. It came back. So as long as it doesn't land on one of these numbers, we're going to be okay. But like I said, if I had to indicate which side the sharps are on, it would be Baylor around 14 or below. My count's about 2.5, almost 3 to 1 in favor of Baylor. So the public's on them as well, which probably isn't much of a surprise.
All right, and then Nebraska, Michigan State, very interesting game. Both these teams ranked in the top 20. Nebraska off revenge. The line has gone down a little bit. I'm assuming you're getting very, very high volume on this game from the public, probably split. Sharp action, probably, I'm going to guess, not much sharp action to speak of.
Yeah, no, not really. I've got kind of two-way action on this in terms of the sharps, but nothing that I would say, I wouldn't side with one guy more than the other guy, that's for sure. The number seems to be, about right. We've got Michigan State at home minus 6.5 right now, a total of 60, and it seems to be working for us. Our money slightly favors Nebraska, and our counts slightly favors Michigan State. You could draw from that, but that perhaps more public money on Michigan State that might be a bit accurate. But in terms of money, it's really not far off at all. And I had guys laying me higher numbers with Michigan State, like 7.5 and 8. I had them taking the 8 on Nebraska, but just because of the dollar volume coming back on Nebraska, we're sitting at 6.5 right now. Nothing real sharp on the total here either. I got most of the action public money on the over, and nothing really to note in this one.
All right, and then the next marquee game I want to ask you about is Texas A&M and Mississippi State. Mississippi State ranked in the top 15 right now. Texas A&M, of course, ranked top 10. Mississippi State off of a bye, so I'm assuming this is also getting very high volume because of the very competitive line, right?
Yeah, you're picking a lot of games here where I don't have the sharps too heavily involved. Mm-hmm. My count is definitely one way in terms of Michigan State, both 3 to 1. My money's pretty much 3 to 1 in their favor as well. Now, this line's moved a lot too. I had sharps come in on Mississippi State when it was +1. Mm-hmm. So the lines moved quite a bit because they're 2.5 point favorite right now, maybe 2.5 minus 15, total of 7.5. So like I said, I've got decent money on Texas A&M. I've got more money and heavier action on Mississippi State for sure. Like I said, a count to 3 to 1 and money 3 to 1 is pretty one-sided at this point.
Right. The sharps took Mississippi State at +1, but probably they wouldn't take it at 2.5.
Yeah, and it was one of those cases where it was like one and done. We got the one bet +1, and then that line was gone.
All right, a lot of other great games this weekend that I could have asked you about. What else can you tell us about notable action from the rest of the card that you've taken so far?
Well, you could have talked to me instead of opening up about the bad line move last week. You could have mentioned how Maryland's been a sharp side indicated week after week, and they won again last week.
Yes.
But you didn't choose to do that, but we'll get past it anyway, Peter. They actually are a sharp play this week, and I took one bet on Maryland +8.5. That was a real sharp bet. They're at home to Ohio State. Their line's down to 7.5 right now. Very one-sided in terms of the money, again, because the sharp action is probably about 3 to 1 right now. Counts pretty close on this game, so it's not going to be hard to get public money on Ohio State. I wouldn't call this a real public sharp split because the public hasn't really dove into this one. But definitely Maryland was a sharp side +8.5. Wow. I want to move down to Kansas there. Kansas is at West Virginia right now. We're looking at West Virginia -28. Totals up to 58. We took sharp action on 53.5, 53, 54.5. This line's going way up in terms of the total. I got a grand total of 0 bets on the under there, Peter.
Wow.
So right now we're sitting at 58, and we're going to need the under, but the sharps are on the over. Game 344 is Northern Illinois. They're a big 24.5 point favorite at home to Kent State. Sharp money came on Northern Illinois at 23. Count is way on their side as well. My count's like about 6 to 1 in favor of Northern Illinois. Not a drop back on Kent State either. Down to Northwestern. Wisconsin is at Northwestern. Wisconsin line right now is -8. I got sharp money on Northwestern. Now, it's important because it's all about the number, of course, and the money that came in on Northwestern was +10, -15, and even like +10, -20, I had a guy buy a half a point. Sharp guys buying a half point, so that was Northwestern. Plus the 10 was the number. We're down to 8 right now. Over to Arizona State and USC. That's the total. That game has got sharp action. Again, I've got nothing on the under, just a whole lot of sharp money on the over.
Wow.
They started betting that one when it was 66. We're up to 68 right now and haven't got anything back. So, they even bet over the 67, so the sharp guys did. So 66 all the way up to 67, sitting at 68. They haven't bet the over, but they haven't touched the under as well. TCU and Oklahoma is a game I want to touch on. It's an interesting one. I do have sharp money on TCU, the home dog. We're sitting at 4.5 right now. We got sharp money +6 initially, +5. Also sharp money on TCU. The reason I want to mention this is because guys that we respect a lot bet TCU to win the whole championship. They bet TCU to win the Big 12. So this is kind of a key game for them that they were probably looking at. They really they're going to need TCU here, obviously. So it's interesting that I got future money on TCU to win their win their conference and to win the whole thing, and they're also betting TCU in this situation right now. Down to UTEP, that's another sharp side. UTEP is at Louisiana Tech. Sharps came in at UTEP at +13.5. Line's down to 12 right now, so that line value is kind of gone. New Mexico State is another one I want to fire through. The New Mexico State, just because I got a couple of sharps on this one, +18 was sharp, +19 was sharp. We're sitting at 17 right now. New Mexico at Texas San Antonio also has sharp money on the under of this game. We're now at 55. Sharp money came under 56 and 58, and that'll be all.
Wow, awesome information. As always, Brent from BetDSI, thanks so much once again, and we'll talk to you tomorrow about NFL Week 5.
The SBR Network offers free sports picks and game breakdowns, big money free betting contests year-round, a real-time Vegas-style odds monitoring service, and much more. So come see for yourself. To stay updated on SBR news and promotions, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, and do be sure to subscribe to the Sportsbook Review YouTube channel to catch all our daily sports shows.